The 1996 Fox Lake UFO incident, witnessed by more than 20 people in the Yukon territories of Canada. The topic of UFO has gained a tremendous amount of credibility, especially within the past few years alone. Written about in depth about subjects for 10 years now. And if you're interested in skimming through some of the articles on the subject, you can find a link here in the article below. We even know that the Foreign Defense Minister of Canada, Paul Hellyer, has been going around for decades talking about UFOs in Canada and the fact that there are ETs living among us and that they have tremendously advanced technology. There are those who believe that a lot of these things that we see could be the spaceships of the ancient Atlanteans that are still among us. These ancient Atlanteans who lived for thousands of years. Some call them Nephilim, others Anunnaki, others extraterrestrial. Anyway, there are no shortage of stories from around the world when it comes to UFO sightings. One great example of strange objects that are commonly seen in the sky comes from the Yukon territory, the province in Canada, in the northwest side of the country. It's a remote area, nowhere near any major cities or populated areas, and the reported sighting happened December 11th, 1996, near a place called Fox Lake. It's extremely cold in this part of the country at this time of year. As we know, it's not far from Alaska. It's just east of Alaska. And again, it's hundreds of miles from any major city or heavily populated public area. According to more than 20 witnesses, a very large aerial object with very bright lights hovered near the lake Fox Lake between 8 and 9 p.m. that night. The picture you see is a cover for an article that was done by Canadian engineer Martin Jasek, who wrote a detailed account of the event after he investigated it for himself. Quote, "Two of the witnesses were cousins, driving in separate vehicles. Each saw it over the lake, slammed on their brakes, and got out of their vehicles. They watched the huge object as it slowly drifted towards one of them and was soon almost directly overhead. Then it moved slowly across the highway and over a hill to the east, whereupon it was lost to view. While the two cousins were observing this object, a married couple with their baby were a bit farther to the south along the same highway, driving towards them. They too saw the object, but by the time they caught up with the cousins and pulled over, the object had moved off. The married couple continued driving until they arrived at a lodge farther ahead, and there they told the owner about what they had seen. He promptly recounted a sighting from an earlier witness who had gotten very close to this object. Quote, "At the nearby village of Pelly Crossing, other people described the same object. In one case, it seemed to respond to a man's flashing by accelerating towards him. When he turned off his flashlight, the object stopped. But then it had gotten quite close to them by that time, filling much of the sky. It also emitted several beams of light, including one that swooped along the ground. They ran across a clearing, perhaps to get a better view, and when he turned to look for the object, it was gone." End quote. So just imagine seeing something like this. How remarkable would that be? As a result of all of the evidence supporting the phenomenon, along with my own experiences, I have been fascinated with the subject for a long time, a very long time. This case has been investigated by many, and most of the interviews with the witnesses are available online here, and you can click a link to see that. There's a video that has a few of them describing their experience in person, but again, more are available online. This is one out of many extraordinary sightings that has occurred around the world, and judging by ancient artwork and history, it seems to have happened and been happening for a very long time. One example would be the Aboriginal community in Canada, the Native American Indians, the Native Canadian Indians, and their stories have not been passed down through documentation, but through an oral storytelling tradition, and these stories often speak of spiritual beings from another world. My comment here is that we've read articles on that and made videos. They call them the Anu, or the star people. The Anu, the friend from the sky, from the stars, the star people. Quote, My people tell of star people who came to us many generations ago. The star people brought spiritual teachings and stories and maps of the cosmos. They offered these freely. They were kind, loving, and set a great example. When they left us, my people say there was a loneliness like no other, end quote. It's according to Richard Wagamis, Ojibwe author. And there's a link to the source there. 5,000-year-old cave art from Australia depicts strange beings that represent what many perceive to represent the modern-day gray alien. These beings were known as Wangina, or cloud spirits, and sky beings. And you can read about that in the link here as well. It's very interesting to think about that. If you put all of these teachings and stories from multiple cultures around the world together, with the evidence that is available today, things start to seem quite strange and very real. This particular case included various drawings and detailed interviews with many of the people who witnessed the object. This is from Richard Dolan, UFOs for the 21st Century Mind, Richard Dolan Press, 2014. Article, witnessed by more than 20 people, 1996 Fox Lake incident in Yukon, Canada, originally created for Collective Evolution, published here on Creative Commons on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.